like bottom turn, and then like before you get to the top of the wave, twist your body, and then you look like right to the white water way before you get to the top of the wave. You're just like you're not even the top of the wave, but you're already looking to the white water, and then you get that big rack, like big turn. I'll watch someone that I think kind of looks like me, similar stance, similar approach, and then I try to bring into my surfing.
Do you struggle with your paddle power? Well, I can go months without surfing and roll to pumping waves and surf 3-hour sessions multiple times a day, day after day after day, by using the Basis Paddle Trainer. It was a total game changer for me, and it can be for you too. These things actually work, unlike elastic resistance bands. You can train your paddling anytime, anywhere, so you can catch more waves and have more fun. Just 10 to 20 minutes a couple times a week, and you're gonna be in insane paddle shape. Right? So remember, the key progression is more waves, and the key to more waves is more paddle power. Check it out at surfbasis.com. You're going to be stoked.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Basis Surf Podcast. Very excited because we got Mateus Herdy today. He is what Stab calls one of the world's best aerialists. Snap 5 said he is one of the most talented surfers on the planet, and says it isn't a question of when he's going to make, if he's going to make on a tour, but when. Definitely, just watching your surfing is pretty insane. So I'm very stoked to have you and ask you all the questions. So thanks for joining, man.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Hell yeah. So we're going to get a lot into, I want to get into kind of your approach to training, your approach to technique, a little bit into kind of the competitive mindset that I know a lot of Brazilians bring to surfing. And I'm kind of curious to dig into like the difference in terms of your guys' mindset and approach to surfing versus like US, Australia, and the rest of the world. But obviously that's made you guys really successful as well, and just dive into training, technique, and all those things. So I've got a ton of questions for you, but why don't we start off with the first question I had for you? Because I think, Brazilians are known for taking surfing very seriously, just like they take their soccer or their football. And, you guys, my understanding is you guys approach it much more from this competitive sport mentality versus this lifestyle soul surfer mentality that a lot of surfers from the US and Australia have. Do you think that's part of the reason for the success of the Brazilian Storm?
I guess the success about the Brazilian Storm, it came because back in the day, like when Felipe, Gabriel, all those guys were younger, they used to compete against each other like every weekend. It was crazy, like I remember being younger than them and watching them compete the amateur events, and they were, the level was just insane, and everyone has sponsors too. So it was a good area, like good time in Brazil to be a pro surfer, or to want, for amateurs, because we had a lot of contests, and they were all like surfing against each other, and and in amateur events, I remember seeing some crazy surfing when they were like 16, or they weren't even on tour, like, and it was, the level was just ridiculous. But answer your question, I guess I I'm also like try to understand, and um more of my of all the Brazilians in general, because Brazil is so big. I come
Yeah.
from South Brazil, and Iago is my neighbor, and you can tell like Iago and I were so different from most of Brazilians, and I been last few years I've been traveling around Brazil. I went to the Northeast, I went to everywhere in the southeast of Brazil, where São Paulo, Rio, and but yeah, I guess it's a cultural thing. 'Cause even like my uncle or my dad or my older friends, those guys that all the locals in Brazil. If you go to the beach, they all come up to me, like some random guys. They just go to, oh, the heat is on, like let's go, and they're like in their 60s, and they're like, it's it's all about like competing for them, like
Yeah.
sometimes they don't even say hi, they just go straight into like, all right, when is our next event, like, all right, the heat is on, and I'd never seen this guy before. It's so I also had a little trouble trying to understand that, because where I come from, it's way more mellow, and then people,
Mm.
I grew up at the beach, and this beach, it's like the first beach where the surfing started in Brazil. Like the first contest, I guess, in the world. I guess the all the pros came to Brazil was that beach, Joaquina Beach, back in '85, I guess,
Mm.
or '84, something like that. And then yeah, I grew up on that beach, and everyone had this. So if you ever come to Florianopolis, the island where I'm from, you'll see like it's so different from everywhere else in Brazil, because we have the surf and the skate culture really uh, come together. They're all super close. Everyone's super close. Everyone lives so close to each other. Like we have Pedro Barros and Yago and Adriano de Souza. Like all these guys, all in the same spot, living in the same neighborhood. So surfing, skate, it's there, and I guess I grew up on this beach where it's so different from the rest of Brazil.
Mm.
So I also had a
That's
little. I'm still trying to understand how everything works in Brazil in general, because Brazil is huge.
right, right. Yeah, it is like it's as diverse as the US, if not more, right? Like the South is totally
Oh
different from the North, and like
no,
you got
it's way more, because if you go back in history, like we had Germans, uh we had a mix of every
right.
race in the world,
Yeah.
like pretty much. So we have
Right.
Japanese,
Yeah.
we have a bunch of so many different if you go back in history you will understand, but it's crazy. Everyone speaks so different too.
Mm.
It's like if you go to America, you will see like some people speak different than, I don't know, if to California to Texas, or the East Coast, things like that. You see the difference between them, but like you don't change as much. In
Yeah.
Brazil, every state it changes, like uh, from their American accent for Australian accent. It's
Wow.
like it's super different. If you go South Brazil, they speak so different. Northeast is it's so different. It's
Huh.
yeah, it's crazy.
That's that's really fascinating. But that's such that's so funny that guys are coming up to you and just being like, "Let's start the heat," and you've never even met this guy, and they're just like,
No,
just
that's yeah. When I was younger, I used to like get mad at them, because I was like, and I started like speaking to my dad, or like people like my uncle, things that I look up to, the people that I look up to, and be like that's not, I don't like it, like I don't even know this guy,
mm,
why? And they're like telling me like, oh, it's not, they're not doing, because they're fans, and they want to, it's like, is their way of saying hi, is their way of like
yeah,
try to tell them, like try to tell me that, oh, I know you, and I see you online, I see you, in the contest and
huh,
stuff. But in the beginning, I was like, I didn't really like it, because I thought it was kind of rude. Like, I don't know this guy. He's like coming
yeah,
up to me and not even saying hi. But it's yeah, it's a culture thing, man. Like everyone's so intense. Everyone, if you know, it's everything about
right,
contest, and one of you win. Everyone's so competitive. Like in general, like soccer's, or even like lawyers. Everyone, they're so competitive. It's like a Brazilian culture thing, which is, I guess, a good thing.
for sure. I mean, obviously, it's fueled a lot of that success that you guys have had on tour and whatnot. But and it's I guess it's interesting when I hear you say that though, the where you're like, I come from Florianopolis and the vibe there is different. Yago's like he's definitely a competitive surfer, but he also kind of has this soul surfer vibe to him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And it's interesting. What bucket do you put yourself in? You're probably kind of a blend, right? I mean, that's why they were saying, Snap Five was saying, yeah, you're a guy that can compete, but you're also like a free surfer that can hang with the best of them. So like, how do you see
yeah.
yourself?
I see myself as like I grew up watching Andy or Julian, or I don't know. I grew up when I was younger. My heroes were surfers, like,
Yeah,
and and then I never really. I remember like being young, not even thinking about decide if I had to decide between a contest guy or a free surfer guy, because it's like no, I'm going to compete, but I'm also going to free surf because that's what the best in the world do. Back in the day, you see like everyone had their own part on the intersection, or they, Taj would have these movies, and it's like for me when I was younger, I was like, oh, like yeah, it's not even a question about like and as soon as I get a vacay, I'll go surf. Like
Yeah.
if there's no contest, I'm gonna go surf somewhere when there's waves are pumping. But then I grew up and then I realized, oh, like yeah, you kind of have to decide a little bit more. So these days, without a sponsor, I'm definitely way more on the competitive side of surfing right now. Things really change, and you can definitely get hurt if you just free surf. Like and but yeah, I think I I see myself still kind of in
And the
between. That like I'm 60% on the competitive surfing because I'm still doing Snap 5. I'm still filming for Snap 5, and then but also like I gotta pay the bills. So but because it's weird, surfing industry these days it's just so weird. Because
yeah.
even if you were make heats before, but you were doing Snap 5 or Snap 4, like if you were doing all this stab stuff, like you're still relevant and you're still being sponsored. But these
Yeah.
days it's like it's weird, man. It's really weird days.
Yeah, it's tough, but I'm sure you're gonna, get on the CT and, things are gonna turn around and, so I'm sure then, that probably just like fuels your fire to just like, all right, I'm gonna do well and, coming up on the events that you have coming up. So what is preparing for the Challenger series and competition look like for you?
So also trying to figure out myself because we're gonna start the challenge series in June this year, so there's a long time.
Mhm.
And I was like talking to my coach Leandro Dora, and I was like, oh, there's a long time till it starts, and then I was like thinking about it, like what should I do and what's the best decision and things like that. So I decided to come to Hawaii. Like I could have been cruising at home, but I really focus on like I want to get better at surfing. I always want to get better at surfing, and I never really had the time at Pipeline and Backdoor and those heavy waves, and I think that's where my weak spot is. And I'm trying to really get better in those scenarios and get ready when I'm as soon as I qualify. I want to be ready for that. But it's really tough. It's so many people out there, and it's so dangerous. And you see people getting hurt all the time. Crosby got hurt. Like I
Yeah.
was right. I was behind. Like I was. I was right there, and I saw him getting hurt. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like it happens like that. And then Ian
Yeah.
Govell also got hurt, like literally a wave before mine, and
Oh,
he had like 22 stitches, and the waves were like not big that day. So it's really heavy. It's something that I really needed to work on to be comfortable there, and I guess that's what I'm doing here, and not even thinking about the challenge. I'm more thinking about like, all right, how can I get better at surfing here? What can I improve in power surfing and bigger waves? And then I'll come back home after this and then reset and then start working, to the challenger series, start to get ready and kind of not like not beast mode yet, but I'll definitely go, you know, like month by month, I'll be getting hype up to get ready for the challenger. So I
yeah.
think that's the best decision that I did.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, like
Yeah,
take month by month and things like that.
right, that makes sense, right? Like, you don't wanna go too hard right away, and then you're just gonna
No,
burn
yeah.
out by the time you get there. But that sounds
Well,
pretty gnarly just going, just focusing on that first bit that you're talking about, trying to get your waves at pipe, and I mean, do you think pipe has just gotten more dangerous because it's just gotten more and more
Definitely.
crowded, and like two people getting injured in the
I
same day like that, and
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like, is it just me, but it's like super shallow right now.
hmm,
Like maybe even Rocky Point, it's really shallow. Like I don't remember being that shallow years ago. I don't
hmm,
know if it's just me, but I don't know. But I think it's way more shallow than before. So it definitely the crowd now, like it's dude, it's like kids are literally 14-year-olds or 15-year-olds. They all have their helmets on and that wetsuit with the foamies, and they're all like going to pipe, and they're not even like on the level, like surfing level to be there, and they're there like throwing themselves at it like crazy.
hmm,
And even though you have the helmet and you have like all these whatever where you can go,
yeah,
it's still dangerous, and you're still putting people in dangers too. Like if you're there, you don't know what you're doing, because it's so yeah, it's a famous wave and everyone want to get a barrel pipe. So but
yeah,
it's getting dangerous and dangerous, crowded, everyone's fighting for the deepest spot, deep. I remember being one day there, and and no one was making the barrel because everyone was fighting so
right,
bad to be like deep than everybody else. So
hmm.
everyone was going, we're too deep. They were like at back door trying to go pipe, like. But yeah, it is. It's surfing, man. We got to deal with things that no other sport has
Yeah,
to deal with. Even when it's like if you're just practicing at your home break,
right,
like there's people, there's beginners, there's people there just learning how to surf right now, and they don't know, and the ocean's for everyone. So, and then you
right.
kind of you're making a heat, and your coach is at the beach, like with the Thailand, and they don't know too. So
Oh man,
it's really different from any other
yeah,
sport.
that's crazy. Well, I'm curious. Like I mean, you know how to get barreled, but like, and you're an incredible surfer. But like, what things do you work on at pipe? Is it really just figuring out your lineups and your positioning? Is it is it just reading the wave, like, or are you? I mean, you mentioned just pushing yourself to go deeper and deeper. Like, what do you work on when you're out there? Or is it just like, I
For
just need to
me,
sit out there and spend
it's
hours to get to my wave?
definitely it's definitely to find out what is the best, like what is the best way. I feel like once you know what is the best way to be, then it gets way less dangerous and way more comfortable, because if you paddle in the right spot, still dangerous fuck, it's still scary, but if you paddle in the right spot and then that's the good one, then it gets way more well, just less dangerous than the ways that you don't know if it's going to be good or not, or if you paddle in the wrong place at the wrong time. And
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I think I'm working all that, like feeling comfortable out there, which is really hard to do, and finding out like what is the best wave to be, even if I don't go on that wave.
Mm,
But like I've been watching guys that, oh, this Balaran's pounding for this wave, so this must be a good one. And then I'll see
right.
it, and I'll like look back and make sure, just look back and see if he made the barrel or not, and be like, oh, okay, that's a good one. So that was like, oh, northwest wave, kind of. There's the north backdoor wave, or like you go learning there, like, and yeah, it's it's cool too. It's so different. Like sometimes you go there, you just catch one wave, or
Yeah.
but it's definitely a learning process that I'm stoked to be learning again.
Yeah. And so, like, I'm curious, how dialed you guys get at your level, like, because you got different swells, coming in. Are you like reading those swells? Are you looking at like swell angle and swell direction and then looking at
Oh yeah,
periods? And you just like, okay, I know this exact angle and this swell direction, and then I would be going for this peak and versus different
at Pipe,
situations. Yeah, pipe, or is it more of like this intuitive process that you're just like building up the time out there?
I think it's more of a, yeah, just spending time there. I don't really
Yeah.
I'm not a nerd about the forecast because if you really get like at home, I kind of gave up on it because I was like seeing the forecast every day and being like the most nerd about it, and it's like, oh, there's a south swell, but there's also this east swell coming. Like at home, it's south and east, and I was like, oh, like, and then I'll get to the beach and there's no way. So I I kind of gave up on that thing. I was just like, all right, like let's focus on what we have and
Yeah.
how big it is and what board should I ride and how's the wave now. So yeah, at pipe it's definitely just like learning because it's the water movement is different and everything is different there. So the
Yeah.
more time you spend there, the better you get.
And question for you is like, I mean, I'm sure you're out there with guys like, John or Jamie O'Brien or Barron who, are known
Yeah.
for being just insane. Like, and you're an incredible surfer as well. But do you look at those guys and you're like, you guys are crazy? Like, I can't believe you're making those waves. Is it like really that, are they that gnarly out there? Or is it like they're just like a little step above? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just curious. This is just a random question.
Um, at pipe, I think there were like so many levels above me, you know. But I think it's like what I what I think it's like. All right, as soon as the heat is on, and then if train and be ready for it when once I have priority and the time is right.
Right.
I want to beat those guys, and they're definitely on a like another level. Like Barry and Jamie and John, they grew up there, and then they grew up and put a lot of time there. So
Yeah.
they know everything about the wave. I'm still like learning and looking, but yeah, it's like I feel like when the heat is on, it's so different because Baron's a guy that like he's a local guy, so he paddle out and no one really paddle for his waves,
Right.
John, the same thing, Jamie, like so it's so different because
Hmm.
they're from everybody. Like we're surfing a different ocean. We Moros, like all us Brazilians, when we go there, we're like, oh, like it's so different. We're like in the middle with so many people, and they're like separated. They're on their own lineup.
Yeah.
All the
Huh.
locals are.
Fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was curious about that. But I mean, it took John so long to win at pipe, right? Like,
yeah,
so,
even that. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, he has an advantage because he's been there, but like, just because you have that advantage doesn't necessarily mean you're going to perform, right? So, like, so
yeah. That's the
you're
thing
right.
about Gabriel. Like he never really spent that time there, and he's always been so early, and he's talented. And but that's the thing too. If you're surfing out there by yourself, and then you have the priority, and you paddle in the right spot with the right board, and the jet skis right there, and the announcement, and you just feel more comfortable, you
Yeah.
know, and it's different for sure.
Oh, that's interesting. All right. So you're working on pipe right now. You're working at your power surfing in bigger
Yeah,
waves as well. Your interview with Stab was super fascinating because you talked about how not many surfers like fully appreciate doing a massive carve like John or Ethan can do, versus like say an air reverse. And
yeah,
you're known for your skill in the air. I mean, Stab called you, one of the world's best aerialists, and your rail surfing is good as well. But like, are you focusing more on your rail surfing now, or are you focusing more on your airs, or like where? And obviously you're focusing on your barrel riding as well in bigger ways, but like what technical part of your surfing are you working on the most right now?
yeah. I'm kind of done trying to like okay, like we always try to get better, like at anything, right? So, but I'm kind of like not looking into this air part, like the airs right now, because I feel really, really confident about it. Like I've trained my whole life for, so when I have a good ramp, it's like it's 99% I know that I'm gonna land it. If I have a good ramp and the wind is good,
Yeah.
I'm and I'm really confident about it. Like for even like when I'm surfing at Rockies or off the wall. I'm like most of the time I'm looking for those big, rights that I've tried to do, or a big turn or get barrel, because that's what I'm looking for. And yeah, even my boards have been it's changing a bit. I've been writing a lot of Golden Child, which is the board that really works for rail surfing. So uh, it's definitely not my favorite board to do airs, but I can do airs on it. So it's a board that I'm being yeah, it's a model that I been writing a lot. And but yeah, it's like I'm really appreciate good rail surfing. I really
Yeah.
love watching Ethan and all those guys. So yeah, I'm looking. That's where I'm trying to get better now.
Oh, interesting. So you switched up your boards. The Golden Child, is that the one that's is that Parco's board, or is it
Yeah,
based on a? Yeah, exactly. And of
it's an
course,
old model. It's an old model back in 2009 that
oh
Joe
wow.
was writing.
So what you were just like, I want to surf like Joel. I want to do cars like Joel, so I'm gonna get to,
Yeah,
I'm gonna jump on it. I mean,
yeah.
are there other guys that are JS team riders as well that are using that in competition, or were you just like you just picked that one because that's an interesting
I
choice,
guess so. I guess a lot of people are writing because like so the CT is just really good waves all the time, pretty much, like compared to the
Right.
QS.
Yeah.
So, and it's a board for that. It's a CT board, and I feel
Yeah.
like there's other guys writing the Golden Child for sure.
Yeah, nice. And I saw that one clip you posted it a while ago at Haleiwa.
Yeah.
You were just working on doing some insane carves there. I mean, what are you working on when you're thinking about, okay, I want to improve my carve? Like, how do you think about improving it for yourself? I'll start with that.
Um, I'll go definitely like I'll watch someone that I think it's that that look not that looks but kind of looks like me, but it just like similar stance, similar approach, and then I try to bring into my surfing into my like to adapt to my body, kind of like, okay, how can I do that, and which is gonna look cool and things like that. So uh yeah, that I've been training since like you saw it, like last year I was here, and this year I'm here too. So I mean, definitely trying to bring a different approach to my surfing. And, yeah, I guess
Oh,
that's
interesting.
I don't yeah, I go and watch someone, and let's say I go watch Ethan before I go out, and then I'll be like,
Mm,
all right, that's what he do. But like there's things that also I don't want to lose because I think it's like good. Like there's things in my surfing that I don't want. I just want to get what is really good about Ethan surf, and then add to the things that I know it's good. That I know that it's good for me. That works for me. Like
right.
tail slides and things like that. That I know it's like, oh, the judges like that, or whatever. I like that. It's like, but
Right.
but just try to get the whole package. Like everything.
Yeah, no, totally. It's so funny that you say it like that because when I interviewed Victor Bernardo, he was talking about it in a very similar way. He's like, I pretend like
It's
I'm
hard to
like a,
explain. Yeah.
yeah, he was like, I think of myself as like I'm this superhero, but I'm like taking little parts from all these other superheroes and I'm making my
Yeah.
own superhero. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to take this from Andy. I'm going to take that from Ethan. I'm going to take that from Taj or
Yeah.
whatever. And then
I
I
feel like
make my own.
before, like when I was a little kid, I loved Julian Wilson. I still love him, but like I remember being like physically similar to him, and we had the same sponsors, and people like call me Young Julian too. So,
Mm,
and I looked up to him so much, but then I started growing up and be like, oh, like I like what that guy do. I like what Philippe does in his backside airs, or his frontside, or whatever, Iago. Like I started like adding from everyone and looking for, oh, like I want to do that too. I want to do that. I want to do that. And not that Julian don't know how to do it, but like just
right.
you're just trying to get that layback from I don't know, from Dane Reynolds, and then
Right.
that backside turn from Andy and things like that, But yeah,
Yeah.
it's similar way than Victor's.
That's so cool. But the thing is, like, someone that has your level of talent, like I would imagine, I would imagine that you're able to like incorporate those new skills like relatively fast, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna make this one little tweak in my style, and like you can make it happen pretty easily.
Yeah,
Um, and how do you know? So working with Leandro Dora, like, what kind of stuff do you guys work on together?
he's he's a really different coach from everyone else, I guess. Because the name of his brand, right? The the whatever the I forgot the word right now, but it's the method of his training. It's called Aprimari Surfing, which is improve your surfing,
Mm,
and he's the guy that been like he's talking to Jack. Like imagine like Jack won so many contests this last couple of years. And then Leandro is still the guy that'd be like, all right, you need to put your arm right here on this turn. You need to do that. Like he's still doing that to Jack because like Jack will also wants to improve, keep improving, and then really so like he he always looks up to this parts like, oh, your arm have to be this way.
with
So
the
yeah, Leandro is this coach that he's always trying to keep improvement, keep improving. Like even for heats too. Like he came up to Yago one day and I was like looking, and they were both like doing the pipe masters, and then it was like Yago he had a left and then he couldn't make it. He didn't make the barrel because he was too deep. But he kept his stance really nice. Like Yago has like this beautiful style, and he kept just his stance perfect and everything. And then Bill was like, he's like, what Gabriel would do there. And then Yago just opened his stance and pretend he's Gabriel, and
uh-huh.
then he's like, exactly, like if you're in a heat and then you need to make the barrel, like open your stance and make sure you're strong and you're gonna, you know,
Mm,
you're gonna. So even if it doesn't look that well, like he works on whenever of course, whatever it looks better is like the main goal. But then if you have to get ugly to make sure you land the air, or if you or make the barrel, or just make the heat, then you do it. Like you got to be able to adapt, and then so he's always looking for these small details, and he's telling Breeza and Lakey, all those stuff that usually just like coaches usually they just do that if you're a kid, but he keeps doing that to us, which is awesome. And that's why I like to work with him, because he's a nerd,
yeah,
and
that's
I'm
great.
also a nerd. I'm also like wants to always look good in a kid, like look good surfing.
Yeah. So, it is interesting because I interviewed Philippe Malveau, and he's a Hurley team manager, but he used to work with Julian Wilson, and Kanoa Igarashi went through this big reboot, couple, I think over the past year or so, and he actually worked with Philippe on just like working on his carve, and they just spent like 5 a.m. to like all day and just like carve after carve and just tweaking little tiny things with the technique of his carve, because he wanted to do a carve like John as well, and Ethan. So it is interesting that at that top level, even though you said, yeah, a lot of times, you're only getting technical when you're younger, but even at the elite level, the CT level, those guys are still trying to work on their technique, right? And
Oh,
you're
for
talking about
sure.
Jack.
You have
Jack
you
knows that
have
well.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
You have
So,
to these days. You have if you wanna win, like you gotta be able to do everything, because the conditions change all the time. And then I remember like guys that dude, the guys that don't know, like let's say it's me against one guy that he don't know how to do a backside air reverse, and we both natural footers, and the waves are like terrible to go right, but there's a left with a ramp, and the wind is good for the ramp. If I know how to do it at backside air and that guy don't, like it's it's a huge advantage for me.
Right.
Like it's like, and then as soon as I put the jersey on and I know and I see the conditions,
Mm,
I get the confidence that I know that I'm gonna. It's just being honest, like
right.
I go to the to the ocean pally and be like, oh, like this is good for me. Like
Yeah.
all I need is just the good ramp that I know he's not gonna do it.
Right.
So you need to be able to do everything these days. So if you don't learn, like if you don't want to learn, because there's the thing too. There's surfers that they get to a certain level, they're really really good. They're so good, but they want to stick to what they're good at. They just want to keep doing what they do, and they don't want to improve the other parts of their surfing. Like me, like I know that I need to get better at bigger waves and solid barrels, and I'm working on that. I know like I'm kind of I gotta be humble about it and be like, all right, like I'm not as good as John, but I want to be as good as someone that can also do everything, get barrel at big waves and do airs and tiny waves. That's what I want to do. I want to try and improve everything.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, why not?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the fun, right? You're building your superhero character to make him as
Yeah,
well-rounded as possible. And it's like,
yeah.
like you were
No
saying,
weakness.
yeah, no weakness, right? Cuz like yeah, otherwise you want to have the full, arsenal of tools. You want to have every condition, right? But if you don't have that one tool, then you're showing up to a gunfight and you only have a knife. You're just not gonna. It's
Exactly.
gonna be trouble. Oh, that's interesting. Well, so was there any like tip or advice that Leandro gave you when you're working on your carves that was helpful for you? Anything like that, or even your bottom turns, or whatever you were working on? Anything that stands out to you?
Not in my mind right now. But I saw like just a few days the like he's talking to Jack, and I saw Jack doing it right after. Like he talked
Mm,
about it, like when you're like bottom turn and then like before you get to the top of the wave, like Meek, all those guys, they do it a lot. Philippe is doing it. Sammy Popo is doing it a lot too. Like kind of the same carve, which is like you kind of twist your body and then you look like right to the white water way before you get to the top of the wave. You're just like you're not even the top of the wave, but you're already looking to the
hmm,
white water,
yeah,
and then you get that big rack, like big turn, and you just and then I remember Leandro was just saying like just keep your hand following your body, like this hand right here, because he had the he used to like let his arm kind of fall,
yeah,
or don't like he just like keep your arm strong and then just follow the the whatever your body, because it's kind of like you're not really thinking about it. You do a movement before, but then you just like let it happen pretty much. Like so you bottom turn, and as soon as you like start to turn the whole body and your neck, and you start looking towards the white water, it's almost like the board is gonna do it for you. Like you just keep holding the rail and then go all the way to the end. And yeah, and I saw Jack do it, and he posted a few days ago this big car. I was like, wow, like this is sick. Like it's sick. It's sick to see like him, like Leandro telling him what to do, and then Jack listening and doing it.
yeah.
Because Jack is like, oh, I want to do it. I want to get better. And this is awesome.
Right. Wow, that's such an interesting tip. I love that.
I think like when he told him that, he was like telling everyone in the
Yeah.
in the room. So I was like, all right,
Right.
I have to do that too.
Yeah.
So he didn't tell me, but he told
Right.
Jack, and I was in the room. I was like, we're all learning from him.
Yeah, that's so cool. That must be so nice to be able to like learn from like a team like that too, right? Like you're
Yeah,
learning from Jack, you're learning from Leandro, you're learning from all the people
exactly.
you're around as well. I mean, I my understanding is like during well, I guess that would be during the that'd be more during the on the C2 on the tour. But like, do you do you guys, during the Challenger series, are you traveling a lot with other Brazilians as well? Or are you kind of doing more your own solo thing?
Before the pandemic, yes, we used to travel. Like we used to go to Europe, and we had like five different events in Europe.
Yeah.
So we all would just share a car and rent places and stay together during the Euro trip or Haas or you know even Brazil had a Brazilian lag, So these days we only have one event in each country, which is suck.
Ah, right. Yeah.
And then it's got, dude, it's like I told you, it's wild, everyone's just trying to save themselves, and people are like, we're all staying at friends' house pretty much. So I'll be like texting one of my Brazilian friends, or even just friends at all, like, be like,
Yeah.
oh, like, who you going with? Oh, no, I'm staying at my friend's house, that he lives there. Everyone's kind of trying to save themselves and
Yeah.
doing their own thing. So yeah, that's
Ah,
what's happening right now.
yeah. I was wondering if you guys like, because it must be so cool to like travel with a group of your homies, basically, right? And like support each other and get
It
stoked
was
for
it
each
was
other,
like that. Yeah, when I was like 17, it was like that. Like I was
Yeah.
younger, and all the Brazilians used to travel all together, and everyone used to support themselves. That's the thing too. Like because we had other events, all the Brazilians used to stay at the camp, helping and supporting whoever is on on the camp,
Yeah.
and because we all stay like they were always stay in the same spot, and they all had to go to the next event together. So it was just like automatic, like, oh, like, let's go support him, because what else are we gonna do? We can't go there because he's still competing, and he's not gonna be by himself. So it was a group thing. I feel like Australia's doing they were doing way better at this
Mm.
supporting uh,
Yeah.
vibe. They're doing way better than us in the QS, I think. Because
Uh,
Brazilians now, we all go, like, of course we all friends, but soon as we lose, we're like, oh, we start doing the math, like, oh, if I stay here, I'll spend that much money, but if I
uh,
pay to go
right.
back home, like if I change my ticket, we get way cheaper to go back home now, and I don't have to spend all this money on food and renting and all this stuff. So as soon as everybody loses, pretty much everyone leave, unless the
Yeah.
ticket is so expensive, or if you guys staying together. I
Right.
try to
Right.
support the if I'm staying with a friend that I know I know that he would do the same thing for me. I do it. I stay at the beach and
Right.
cheer and support.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that always struck me when I'm watching the CT events is like how much the Brazilians have each other's backs. They always
Yeah.
seem like they're really backing each other. So I always thought that was pretty sick. So tell me a little bit more about the process of dialing in your boards. Switching to the Golden Child, was that like a big like jump for you? Was that like a difficult decision for you? To be like, I mean, because I guess right now you're switching to the Golden Child because you're surfing in Hawaii waves, or
I changed it
go.
before. I changed it
Oh, you
before.
did.
Yeah,
And are you
because
riding
when
that even? Are you riding that even in slightly smaller waves? I mean, or like, how do
yeah,
you think
yeah,
about your
definitely.
quiver? How do you think about your quiver right now?
I'm definitely changing a lot. Uh, like just the approach, it's different, but there's a I have this contest sport that Jason and I we know this is the one that works, and that because it's a model that it's not there's not it's just a board that we work together, and it doesn't really fit in any model yet, kind of. But he
Hmm.
puts as zero gravity, but it's not the zero gravity because the rail is a little bit different, and it's way more knifey, but also still has like um, a little more volume, like in my chest, like around my chest, because to land the airs make easier. So it's like a good bird to do turns, and still I can still do airs like that. And then
Mm.
we work on the kick tail as well, because when I joined JS team. I was talking to Jason. I was like, "Oh, Jason, this is happening. Like like the tail. There used to be no kick tail, so it used to be really hard to do airs, like harder, you know. And then the tail, instead of going upside down, it would go like sideways like that. So I
Mm,
try to tell him like, oh, like I needed to do it a little more, like just a little tiny kick tail in the end, like just enough so I can get the kick, but not as much so I can lose the speed. So we
mm,
work on that. So we have this board, which is like a zero gravity, the model calls zero gravity, but it's kind of depth to what I like.
yeah.
And this board is the board for the QS, or just an overall board that I like to ride. But the Golden Child has been the board where I'm free surfing, especially now that I'm not going to compete for a while. I've been surfing a lot because, before I used to go find waves whenever, like, where the best ramp was, but
Right.
now I'm like looking for like bigger and even at home, I've been trying that before even I came to Hawaii. So that's why I've been surfing with the JS and just like longer ways that I know that I have to keep the flow and the speed going. And so that's why I've been surfing with the Golden Child. And it's still a good bird to do airs too. Like it's not that if there's a good rep, I'll still be able to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so interesting because, you're talking about how, you're transitioning and you're trying to figure out how to surf, bigger waves, longer waves with more flow. And I remember when I was talking to Zeke Lau, and he was talking about transitioning and trying to compete on the QS to qualify for the CT. And he was like, I struggled in the reverse direction because he's used to surfing Hawaii. He's not used to surfing beach breaks. And then he was really struggling surfing beach breaks. And it's like, it's so interesting how you'll come at it and have different struggles just depending on kind of where you're
Oh
coming
yeah,
from.
for sure.
Huh.
We got
Although,
Yeah. I think now these days everyone's so good at it, at
yeah,
beach breaks and or anything, So it's more about like being being like know how to compete, because I competed
mm,
against like João Duru in Portugal,
yeah,
and he ended up losing, but he did everything right, and I did pretty much everything wrong. But I made it. I got second. He got third.
huh,
But like the only problem that there was no waves. He he did everything right. He waited for his priority. He held priority for like 15 minutes. I was like, all right, he's definitely getting a wave. So I was in second, and he needed like a three. So I was like, all right, he's definitely gonna get a four, a five, at Ericeira. So
right,
so he was doing everything right on that heat, but thank God no waves came. And yeah, for 15 minutes, the ocean just went flat, and I was so glad. And but the thing is, what I'm trying to say, it's like everyone's so good these days at beach breaks and back nations, and what we got to do there on the Challenger Series on the QS, you just if you're competing, if you're not making mistakes, it's like the biggest advantage you can have there.
mm,
Of course, all the surfing part, but like Seek, he won in so many places. He's from Hawaii, but he won average wave. The first time John won a CT was in Brazil, beach breaks, like
yeah,
so. So everyone's really good. It's just like if you're competing in the right way and doing the right things, is the chance of you making the heat or winning comp it's big. So the
right.
bigger issue now is like more of it. It's like know how to compete pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why Gabriel Medina is so good, right? He's just like such a insane, vicious competitor. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
No weakness
Well,
at sea surfing, and he still competes like no one else.
yeah, it's so crazy. All right, well, we got to work towards finishing up here. So I got three last questions for you.
There you go.
Um, all right. So, what is your intention when you stand up on a wave? Like, what goes through your head?
It's it really depends, It depends, like if I'm free surfing. if I'm filming for a part, if I'm training for a comp, if I'm just free surfing to have fun, if
Let's
I
say,
had a different board and if I'm surfing with twin fin or things like that. So I
yeah, let's
change
say
a
you're
lot.
free
I'm
surfing.
not a yeah, I'm not a
Yeah.
guy that I always like. I have this one mentality, which is like, oh, smash this wave. I'm always like, I always have
Uh,
different mentalities and different, yeah. Like there's days that I'm just like, oh, I wanna get my spin fin and just try
yeah.
to do this big cutback and just enjoy the board, just let the just I like when the board just do a lot of things for you. I love it,
Yeah.
like when you
Huh.
just don't move and then the board just going and then you do like just smallest things and the board just do it for you. It's like helping you surfing. And I feel like when I have these twin fins, they do that a lot,
Huh.
but it needs like a certain specific conditions to do, like it has to be offshore and it's kind of have you can't be closing out, has to be kind of long way. So those days I'm really I enjoy a lot, like the time, like floaters, cutbacks,
Hmm.
bottom turns, and like I enjoy every detail. And then when I'm like, I don't know if the conditions are for like if there's air ramps, if there's ramps, and I go there just to do airs, and those are the days when if I don't land a lot of airs, I get kind of mad. I'm like oh, like if I'm not consistent, I get really mad. Even if I land one air or two really good airs, but if the ramps are really if the waves are really good for airs, and I only land
Yeah.
just two, I really get mad.
Oh.
And those are not so it's not been really fun. But when I land all the airs that I'm going for, then it's really fun. So it
Yeah.
seriously it depends. That's why I never really get tired of surfing. I ordered like a bunch of quads,
Huh.
uh, surfboards here. So and then twin fins and then thrusters, of course. So that's the thing that one of the reasons that I don't get tired of surfing is like I like to adapt to the conditions to still
Yeah.
have fun, you know. And and yeah, Leandro he kind of thinks that I kind of have to give up on the twin fin thing, but I love it.
That's so funny that yeah, that Leandro is getting on you about the twin fins. But it's interesting because I was actually very surprised when I heard that you ride twin fins because I would imagine everybody that's on the Challenger series and CT are just like thruster only, and then when you get off, that's when you jump on the twin fin. But you're just like yeah,
Oh no, I'm riding the twin fin way more than I should have.
huh? What?
I just don't. I just because those days like I don't really post anything,
Yeah,
because it's usually bad days, usually small days that I don't really post. But I've been riding a lot, and Thomas Hermes is the one that got into like I went surfing with him, and he was ripping on the twin fins, and he had like he didn't have that twin fin like big. He was like it was a knife. It was
hmm.
a different board, and he was doing big turns, like bigger than me. And I had my thrusters, round tail. You know, I had the board to do big carves, and he was doing crazy surfing, like bigger turns
Oh,
than me, and with his twin fins in proper way. So, and then yeah, and then I started like, oh, I need to get me a twin fin, and I started having a lot of fun with it, and yeah,
yeah.
that's guilty.
Maybe you got to sneak a twin fin into your events and just do some big carves like that. That would be so cool to see you
Dude, I
compete
I
with on.
swear to God, like maybe J Bay would have been if you have like a good twin fin. I've like
Yeah,
twin fin. I high performance twin fin. Maybe even with the little um what is it called,
the
the
trailer.
the yeah, and the little fin in the
Yeah,
back.
yeah, the trailer, the
Yeah,
stabilizer. Yeah,
the stabilizer, just like maybe it might be really good to do some huge cars because you have the big thing, right? And then it would just
Right.
hold the rail way more than I don't know. Maybe I don't know,
That'd be super
but
fun. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I
yeah.
mean, I was when I interviewed Victor Bernardo, he was like, "Yeah," he was like, I was like, he was talking about competing again just for fun or whatever, man. I was like, "Man, that'd be so sick if you start competing and just like riding these trippy like twin fins and whatever, and just like seeing that go up against your traditional thruster. It'd be really interesting to see." Oh man, yeah, maybe you will have to do that sometime. That'd be sick. You're the first one to
Yeah,
ride a twin
maybe
fin in the CT. That would be so sick, dude.
that'll be sick. Yeah, that'll be sick.
Nice. All right. Well, if you had to surf the same wave for the rest of your life, what wave would you surf? You don't have to name a secret spot if it's a secret, but
Oh, a place to
yeah,
surf?
like a wave. If you had to surf the same wave forever, that was the only wave you got to surf for the rest of your life, what would
Oh
that be?
man, my home break, I think,
Yeah.
because my friends are there, and even though it's not that good all the time, it's just like when it gets good and you have your friends. The thing about Florianopolis too, when the waves are big and when there's proper good waves, no, like, there's no one out. It's crazy.
Huh.
So
Mm.
the best memories that I have surfing at home, it's like no one out, just me and my friend,
Oh wow.
and so it's probably home, Yeah,
Yeah.
I like this beach, Joaquina Beach. It's a really long beach, and then we have this left in a corner, and then when we have south swell directions, like big swell, in the other part we have this right point break.
Wow.
So I think, yeah, I'll I'll
Sounds like you
I'll
got
stay
everything you
there.
need.
And sometimes we have, yeah, pretty much. I would surf there for sure for the rest of it. If I have to, like when the pandemic happened, it was kind of fun. Like the waves are, I mean, not
Right.
of course not the COVID, but surfing at home for a while, I was like, oh, this is not that bad. I could
Right.
live like that surfing at home,
Hell
and
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Last question. If you were stranded on a desert island with a rippleable, let's say overhead to double overhead wave, what board would you ride? I think I know the answer to this, but
I guess my thruster. I mean,
It-
I love the twin thing, but
yeah,
but but I still want to do airs too.
right.
You know, so I still go with my normal board, I guess. This
Yeah.
today,
Would it be that?
unless I find, yeah, unless I find a board like Victor's that can do turns and still do like turns, like his boards look so good for everything. But like different. I don't know. Definitely a
What
board.
thruster? Would it be that golden child or would it be the zero gravity?
The Golden Child, just because it would be a good board. It will be a good wave, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
It
it
would be a
would
good
be
wave.
it'll
Huh.
be a good wave. So a Golden Child. Yeah, a Golden
Okay.
Child, and yeah, that was
Okay. And what about the twin? I'm curious about the twin fin. Like, what's your favorite twin fin?
the Finn, the Mark Richards
No,
one.
it's not the fin, but like, what's your favorite twin fin like surfboard model? Is there a specific one that you like to ride, or is it,
No, I don't think he did any model on that board. I have to check it. I don't think he has a. Jason has a model for the twin fin.
okay? Or
Yeah,
what
I'm
about
gonna
that?
check.
Yeah, what about that twin fin that you said that Thomas Hermes was riding? You don't know what that was? You said it was like very high performance twin fin.
Oh yeah, but he also went to his shaper, and asked him to do it because most shapers just do the twin fin for like small waves
Right.
and like really thick rails, but
Yeah.
he went there and asked for like a different board. So yeah, I don't know
Got
exactly
it.
what model it was, but yeah,
Yeah. That sounds like a sick board. All right, man. Well, it was such a pleasure chatting with you.
yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you,
thanks for joining, man.
thank you. That was nice.